The Russia versus Georgia war will have consequences and reverberations. The echo of this war is likely to reverberate in the world, or in this part of the world, for many years to come. And regardless of who started it, and who, whatever reason, sought to protect whose citizens, what has become Russia's war on Georgia has already revealed or confirmed some crucial and troubling things about the Moscow regime that the West must take into consideration. A most important one has been Vladimir Putin's role. Not only is he a de facto commander-in-chief and the spokesman for the Kremlin, but the Russian news media also have gone out of their way to play up this preeminence of the Prime Minister, who is supposed to be working for the President, but who's working for who? Vladimir Putin flew from the opening of the Olympics in Beijing, where he was the only unelected Prime Minister among heads of states, directly to the North Ossetian capital to lead the war. He was then shown on Russian television conferring with the local military and civilian leaders, instructing people what needs to be done, talking to the refugees, and visiting with the wounded in a hospital. And, of course, very angrily rebuffing the U.S. criticism of Russia's actions. Thus, the Prime Minister Putin confirmed to Russia and the world what many have suspected. The elections in Russia are a sham, and so is the constitutional division of power. Buried under the ruble in the Georgian city of Gori are also the vague hopes of anyone trimming at least the excesses of Putin with domestic liberalization and a more accommodating foreign policy that his speeches had seemed to imply. So all his words about the rule of law and freedom of speech and anti-corruption appear today to have as little credibility as the man who said them. To the extent that there were the liberals and the hardliners among the Russian leadership, the distinction seemed to matter little when a decision was made to choose war, more war than ever before. Most troubling, the Georgia incursion or war is a colossal setback for the already weak forces of democracy inside Russia. And this outcome bodes very badly for Russia's behavior in the world as well. Plenty of regimes of dictatorships have been relatively content to fulfill their domestic agendas without indulging their foreign policy ambitions. Neither under Tsars nor under the Soviets could Russia be counted among such political systems. Russia historically seems to be wedded to warmongering, conquests, victories, and defeats. Long before this war, Vladimir Putin had instilled the Russian politics, and public opinion with the key elements of what might be called a restless and imperial-minded nation. The intensely personal system of power in which the national leader, rather than democratic institutions, rule, dictatorship, the state propaganda themes of loss and imperial nostalgia, the idea of the besieged fortress Russia surrounded by cunning, ruthless, and plotting enemies on every side, spy mania or hysteria, the labeling of political opposition as the fifth column traitors, Russia indeed has reverted to the traditional role of warlike imperialism, and if, as seems to be the case, it pays no or a very small price internationally for this war, then what's them to stop them from doing it again? But the next victim is not at all hard to name. It could be the pro-Western, struggling democracy of Ukraine, teeming with millions of ethnic Russians, or Russian speakers. In fact, in the past few months, a very steady and increasingly loud propaganda drumbeat has sounded in Moscow, echoed in the parliament, the Duma. Do not vacate the Black Sea Fleet's base. And furthermore, reclaim the entire Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine. George, or Putin, reportedly told the President of the U.S. at the NATO summit in April in Romania, Ukraine is not even a real state. That is why Kyiv has been so steady in its support for Georgia. And there could be very, very big trouble ahead. And the United States, regardless, doesn't even matter hardly, regardless of who the next president will be, they got a lot to do, and they're going to have a lot in their hands, and they should be ready. And now Georgia expects U.S. military help. The presence of U.S. military forces delivering aid to Georgia could very well ratchet up tensions with Russia. And the administration, U.S. administration, also will review what military help is needed for Georgia's now shattered armed forces. In Georgia, government officials said Gori, the town of Gori, was looted and bombed by the Russians. An AP reporter later saw dozens and dozens of tanks and military vehicles leaving Gori, roaring south. Yes, these are more signs. There will be a lot of consequences. There can be consequences, repercussions from this Russia versus Russia war, or Russia versus Georgia, whatever it be. There will be consequences from all this. There will be things to come from this. This is a sign, and these are more signs. The end times, transition days, and there are many.